Have you ever noticed how every time you feel like you finally got everything figured out, life immediately finds a way to humble you? Like you'll have a good week, maybe a good month, you're making progress at work, you've got money in the bank, you're sleeping better, going to the gym, eating better, whatever it is. And for a second, you start thinking, you know what? I think I'm finally getting this whole life thing figured out. And that's exactly when something happens. Your car starts making a weird noise, your phone breaks, you get sick, some random bill shows up, somebody you haven't thought about in months suddenly becomes a problem again. It's almost like life sees you getting comfortable and goes, hold on a second, let's not get carried away here. And I don't know if that's just how life works or if it's just how our brains work. Because when you're younger, you always think there's some finish line. You think one day you're gonna wake up and everything is finally gonna be in place. You'll have the money you want, the job you want, the house you want, the relationship you want, the body you want, and that is it. Game over. You win. But the older I get, the more I realize nobody actually feels this way. I've met people with great jobs who are miserable. I've met people with money who are stressed out constantly. And I've met people who finally got in the relationship they've always wanted and now they're worried about losing it. It's like every time you climb a mountain, you finally get to the top, look around, and realize there's another mountain right behind it. And honestly, I think that's why so many people spend their lives feeling behind. Because they're comparing their behind the scenes life to someone else's highlight reel. You scroll through social media for 5 minutes and suddenly everyone looks happier than you. Everybody's traveling, everyone's buying houses, everybody's getting married, everybody's starting a business, everybody's succeeding. But what you never see is the other side of it. You don't see the arguments, you don't see the stress, you don't see the debt, you don't see the nights where they're sitting in their room wondering if they're making the right decisions either. And the weirdest part is, everybody knows this. Everybody knows social media isn't reality, but somehow we still fall for it. We still all compare. We all still convince ourselves that everyone else has some secret we don't. Like there's a group chat where everybody figured life out and we just didn't get invited. But I don't think anyone knows what they're doing. I think most people are just making their best guess. Some people are just more confident while they're guessing. And maybe that's what growing up really is. Not figuring everything out, just becoming comfortable with the fact that you're never going to. Because think about it. 5 years ago, you probably had problems that completely stressed you out. Problems felt huge. Problems that kept you awake at night. And now, you barely even think about them. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You adapted. You learned. You moved on. And then life handed you another brand new set of problems. That's the funny part. I don't think life ever gets easier. I think your capacity grows. The things that used to break you became things you barely notice. And the things that challenge you now would have completely overwhelmed the version of you from a few years ago. Which is kind of comforting when you think about it, because maybe the goal isn't to eliminate every problem. Maybe the goal is to become the type of person who can handle them. Because every person you admire has problems. Every successful person has problems. Every happy person has problems. The difference isn't that they escape them, it's that they learned how to carry them. And I think that's something nobody tells you when you're younger. You spend so much time trying to arrive somewhere, trying to be someone, trying to reach some imaginary point where everything finally makes sense. But maybe life isn't something you figure out. Maybe it's something you experience. Maybe the uncertainty is part of it. Maybe the reason good moments feel so good is because they don't last forever. Maybe the reason we appreciate success is because we've failed before. Maybe the reason we appreciate peace is because we've experienced chaos. And maybe that's why every time life seems perfect for a moment, something changes. Not because the universe is against you, not because you're unlucky, but because that's literally what being alive is. Things change, people change, plans change. And honestly, if everything stayed exactly the same forever, we'll probably get bored anyway. So maybe the goal isn't to finally have everything. Maybe the goal is learning how to appreciate what you have while you've got it. Because one thing I've realized is that most things that we prayed for eventually become things we take for granted. The job we wanted becomes the job we complain about. The car we wanted becomes the car we barely notice. The freedom we wanted becomes normal. And then we're off chasing the next big thing. Always chasing, always reaching, always believing the next thing will finally be enough. But every now and then, it's worth stopping and realizing that the life you're living right now is probably the life that the younger version of you would have been excited about. And that's easy to forget because we're so focused on where we're going that we never stop to appreciate how far we've already came. And maybe that's why no matter what happens next, no matter what problems show up tomorrow, no matter what's going on, things usually end up working out. Not perfectly, not exactly how you planned, but somehow they work out. They always seem to, and if they don't, you'll figure it out, just like you always have.